Ambassador Amanda Carter stood at the center of the vast Galactic Council chamber, her heart beating steadily despite the hundreds of alien eyes fixed upon her. The circular room towered above her, its crystalline walls glowing with a soft blue light that reflected off the metallic skin of the various alien species present. She was the first human to ever address the full council, and she knew her words today would shape humanity's future among the stars. Distinguished members of the council, she began, her voice clear and strong. I stand before you to discuss the recent conflict between Earth and the Zaxteri Empire. What happened was not our choice, but our response was necessary. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Zaxteri representative, a tall, gray-skinned being with 4 arms, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. 3 years ago, their ships had appeared in Earth's sky without warning, demanding immediate surrender. They had expected an easy conquest, like the many worlds they had subjugated before. They had been wrong. Admiral Peter Hughes watched the proceedings from a separate viewing chamber, his weathered face illuminated by the same blue light. He remembered that day clearly, the day that changed everything. He had been in command of the North American Defense Center when the Zaxteri ships first appeared. They gave us 6 hours to surrender, he whispered to himself, remembering the ultimatum. 6 hours that changed the course of human history. In those 6 hours, something remarkable had happened. The world's governments, for the first time in human history, had united completely. Ancient rivals shared military secrets, scientists freely exchanged classified research, and every satellite and weapons platform was linked into a single network. The Zaxteri had expected to face a primitive, divided species. Instead, they encountered humanity's first unified defense system. Carter continued her address to the Council. When the Zaxteri fleet opened fire, they triggered our automated defense systems. Systems we had been developing in secret for decades, preparing for the day we might encounter hostile alien life. The chamber erupted in surprised chatters and clicks. A blue-skinned counselor leaned forward. You had prepared for space warfare before first contact. We had prepared for everything, Carter replied simply. Humanity has a long history of preparing for the worst while hoping for the best. The scene shifted back to that first battle. Admiral Hughes watched through the viewing screen as the memory played out in his mind. The Zaxteri ships had been impressive. Huge, crystalline structures that bent light around them. They had launched their first strike against major cities, expecting to cause panic and chaos. Instead, their weapons had met the quantum shield grid, a theoretical defense system that had been rushed into operation in those 6 desperate hours. The alien energy weapons had been absorbed, analyzed, and their data instantly shared across Earth's unified defense network. The shield technology, a reptilian counselor hissed. You developed it independently. We adapted it, Carter corrected, from theoretical physics papers written decades ago. When we saw the energy signatures of the Zaxteri ships, our AI systems made the connection and implemented the theories in real time. This caused another stir in the chamber. The ability to adapt and implement new technology during combat was unprecedented. Most species took years, even decades, to incorporate new technological concepts. The story continued to unfold as Carter described the counterattack. How Earth's seemingly primitive satellites had suddenly revealed themselves to be armed with experimental weapons. How the supposedly defenseless orbital stations had transformed into military platforms. The Zaxteri fleet had found itself caught in a web of human ingenuity and desperate determination. Admiral Hughes remembered the moment the tide turned. Lieutenant Susan Martinez had been monitoring the enemy fleet's communications when she noticed a pattern. Sir, she had said, her eyes wide with excitement, they're using a predictable encryption sequence. Our AI can crack it faster than they can change it. Within minutes, Earth's forces were intercepting and understanding every Zaxteri command. Within hours, they were sending false orders. The mighty invasion fleet began to fall into chaos. But it was what happened next that truly shocked the Galactic Council. You didn't just defend, the Zaxteri representative said, speaking for the first time. You counterattacked. You followed our retreating ships. You pushed into our territory. Carter nodded. We had learned from our history. Simply defending isn't enough. We needed to ensure Earth's safety by establishing a clear message. Humanity will not be an easy target. The council chamber grew quiet as images appeared on the walls. Human ships, built from reverse-engineered Zaxteri technology, pushing into enemy space. These ships hadn't existed 3 years ago. Humanity had gone from a planetary civilization to an interstellar power in less time than it took most species to adapt to new communication protocols. Within 6 months, Carter continued, we had established bases in 3 star systems. Within a year, we had a fleet of ships that could match Zaxteri vessels in combat. Within 2 years, we had improved upon their designs. Admiral Hughes smiled slightly at the memory of launching Earth's first faster-than-light ship. They had named it the Pioneer Spirit, and it had proven that humans could not only match alien technology, but improve it. And now, Carter said, her voice firm, we come to the Council not as supplicants, but as equals. We seek peace, but we will not accept subjugation. We offer friendship, but we demand respect. The council chamber remained silent for a long moment. Finally, the High Counselor, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, spoke. In all our history, we have never seen such rapid advancement. Such adaptation. It is unprecedented. Humanity is unprecedented, Carter replied with a small smile. We have spent our entire history preparing for moments like these. Every story, every movie, every book about alien contact helped us prepare. While you saw us as primitive, we were already imagining this future. As the council session ended, Admiral Hughes met Carter in the private chamber. Well done, Ambassador, he said warmly, though you didn't tell them everything. Carter's smile turned slightly mischievous. No, I didn't. They don't need to know about the Jupiter shipyards yet, or the Mars defense grid. Let them think we're just quick learners. Hughes nodded, looking out at the stars through the chamber's window. How long do you think it will take them to realize that what they've seen isn't humanity rushing to catch up, but humanity finally having the chance to implement everything we've been planning for centuries? Carter finished. Hopefully long enough for us to finish the Titan project. They both stood in comfortable silence, watching Earth's first official diplomatic ship dock with the council station. On its side was painted humanity's new motto, Per Audacia ad Astra, through boldness to the stars. The first contact fallout had shown the galaxy one important truth. Humanity had spent generations preparing for this moment, and they were ready to take their place among the stars. High Commander Vexthor had seen many things in his 300 years as the Galactic Council's chief war assessor. He had evaluated the military might of 57 different species, but nothing in his long career had prepared him for Earth. The massive window of the observation deck showed the blue planet below, peaceful at first glance, but Vexthor's trained eyes caught the subtle shimmer of defense screens and the occasional flash of patrol ships moving in precise formations. Lieutenant Susan Martinez stood beside him, her tablet displaying a schedule for their assessment tour. She was young by both human and galactic standards, but her eyes held the sharp intelligence that Vexthor had begun to recognize as typical of her species. "Shall we begin with the orbital defense platforms, Commander?" she asked, her voice professional and courteous. Vexthor's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture of agreement in his species. "Yes, but first, I must ask, how did you achieve such precise coordination between your defensive systems in mere years?" Susan's lips curved into what humans call a smile. "We've been practicing for a long time, Commander. Every video game, every space simulation, every military exercise, they all prepared us for this moment." The transport ship that took them to the nearest defense platform was small but remarkably advanced. Captain John Rivers handled the controls with casual ease, making micro-adjustments that spoke of countless hours of practice. 3 years ago, humans had never piloted spacecraft. Now they moved through space as if born to it. This is Defense Platform Alpha 7, Susan explained as they approached a sleek structure that seemed to blend into the starfield. It's one of our older models. Vexthor's scanning equipment indicated the platform was less than 2 years old. The fact that humans considered this old sent a shiver down his spine ridges. Inside the platform, they were greeted by a holographic interface that responded to their presence immediately. "Welcome, Lieutenant Martinez, Captain Rivers, and High Commander Vexthor," it said in a pleasant voice. "I am Defense AI Charlotte. How may I assist your inspection today?" Vexthor's fourth eye widened, the sign of surprise in his species. "You've developed true AI. In 3 years." "Oh no," Susan replied with another smile. "Charlotte is much older. We developed her for gaming servers originally. She used to run massive multiplayer space battle simulations. We just gave her real weapons instead of virtual ones." The tour continued, each revelation more surprising than the last. The defense platform's weapon systems were a perfect blend of human ingenuity and adapted alien technology. Where most species would simply copy advanced technology, humans had taken it apart, understood it, and improved it. "These targeting systems," Vexthor noted, checking his instruments. "They're more efficient than standard galactic designs." "Video games again," Captain Rivers explained, checking some readings on a holographic display. "Gamers complained if there was even a millisecond of lag. We had to make them perfect." In the platform's control center, Vexthor watched as Charlotte coordinated with other defense eyes, running constant simulations and adjusting defensive patterns. The level of integration between human and artificial intelligence was unprecedented. "Your eyes," he said carefully, "they work alongside humans rather than simply following orders." "Of course," Susan replied. "They're part of our team." Charlotte used to help players improve their gaming strategies. Now she helps us improve our defensive strategies. It's the same principle, just with higher stakes. The next stop was even more revealing. They visited a shipyard where civilian vessels were being constructed. Captain Rivers pointed out various features with obvious pride. "This is where I got my start," he said, gesturing to a sleek transport ship under construction. "I used to drive cargo ships in space simulator games. When we needed real pilots after the Zaxteri attack, gamers like me already had thousands of hours of practice." Vexthor made careful notes on his pad. The humans had effectively turned their entertainment into military training. Every game, every simulation, every science fiction story had been preparation for this moment in their history. The assessment continued with visits to multiple facilities. Each one showed the same pattern: humans taking advanced technology and making it their own. They didn't just use it. They understood it, improved it, integrated it with their existing systems. In a secure briefing room, Susan showed him footage of the latest human innovation, a neural interface system that allowed pilots to control their ships with thought alone. "We had been developing similar systems for virtual reality gaming," she explained. "Converting it for actual spacecraft control wasn't that difficult." "Not difficult." Vexthor's voice held a note of disbelief. "Most species take decades to develop such technology." "We had an advantage," Captain Rivers added. "We'd been imagining this future for centuries. Science fiction writers had already worked out a lot of the theoretical problems. We just had to make their ideas real." The day's assessment ended back at the observation deck. As Vexthor compiled his notes, he watched a group of human children on a school tour of the station. They pointed excitedly at the ships and platforms, completely at ease with technology that most species would find intimidating. "They're not afraid," he noted. "Why would they be?" Susan asked. "They've been playing with these ideas their whole lives. Every toy, every game, every story prepared them for this reality." Vexthor made his final note of the day. "Human children are born looking at the stars not with fear, but with expectation." Later, in his private quarters, he began his official report to the Council. The first line read, "The human approach to space warfare is unlike anything we have encountered. They did not develop their technology. They prepared for it. When the technology finally arrived, they simply implemented plans they had been refining for generations. He paused, considering his next words carefully. The council needed to understand what made humans different. They weren't just quick learners or lucky survivors. They were a species that had spent their entire history getting ready for this moment. The report continued. Their entertainment was their training. Their games were their simulations. Their stories were their strategies. What we see as their rapid rise to power is, from their perspective, simply the long-awaited opportunity to make their dreams real. As he finished his day's report, Vexthor looked out at Earth again. The defense platforms were barely visible, the patrol ships moving like stars among stars. It all looked so natural, as if humans had always been a spacefaring species. In a way, he realized, they had been. They had been traveling the stars in their minds for generations. Now they were simply making those journeys real. Tomorrow, they would inspect the lunar bases and the Mars colonies. Vexthor suspected he would find more of the same, a species making their long-held dreams into reality, one technological breakthrough at a time. The humans had a saying he had learned today: life imitates art. Now he understood what it meant. Humans had created art about space travel for so long that when the real thing arrived, they already knew exactly what to do. Fleet Commander Catherine Brooks stood in the command center of Titan Base, watching as the massive holographic display showed hundreds of ships moving through the asteroid belt. None of these ships appeared on official records. None of them were supposed to exist. High Commander Vexthor's 4 eyes widened as he took in the sight. "You've hidden an entire fleet in your asteroid belt?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Hidden isn't quite the right word," Catherine replied, adjusting the holographic display with a wave of her hand. "We prefer to call it strategic positioning." The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter had seemed like nothing special during initial scans. But now, as Catherine revealed layer after layer of human military might, Vexthor understood just how wrong that assessment had been. Each asteroid larger than a kilometer had been turned into a shipyard or supply base. Smaller rocks served as cover for patrol ships and weapon platforms. The entire belt was a vast industrial complex, hidden in plain sight. "How many ships?" Lieutenant Susan Martinez asked, standing beside them. Even she hadn't known the full extent of the hidden fleet. Catherine smiled. "That depends on how you count them. We have 500 capital ships ready for immediate action, another 1,000 smaller vessels for support roles, and the automated drone fleet, of course." Drone fleet. Vexthor's translator almost failed to convey his shock. The commander pressed another button, and a new layer of data appeared on the display. Thousands of small dots filled the space between the asteroids. Automated ships controlled by AI systems. "Remember Charlotte, the defense AI you met yesterday?" Catherine asked. "She has many sisters. Each one controls a section of the drone fleet. They practice combat scenarios constantly, learning and improving their tactics." Vexthor made rapid notes on his pad. The implications were staggering. Most species took decades to build fleets of this size. Humans had done it in 3 years, and they had done it in secret. "Would you like to see one of the shipyards?" Catherine asked, already knowing the answer. Their transport ship moved carefully through the asteroid field, its hull occasionally reflecting light from the hidden bases. They approached what looked like an ordinary asteroid, but as they got closer, massive doors began to open in its surface. Inside, they found an enormous cavern filled with activity. Robotic arms moved huge pieces of metal into place. AI-controlled construction drones swarmed around half-finished ships. Human workers in spacesuits directed the operation from control pods. "This is construction-based Delta," Catherine explained. "We can complete a capital ship every 2 weeks here. The automated systems work around the clock." Vexthor watched as a nearly finished ship moved slowly toward the exit. Its design was unlike anything he had seen before, a perfect blend of human creativity and advanced alien technology. The design looks familiar, he said carefully. Catherine nodded. We started with captured Zaxteri ships as inspiration, but we made some improvements. Would you like to see them in action? The next hour was spent watching the combat exercise. Human ships moved with impossible precision, their AI systems and human crews working in perfect harmony. The drone fleet demonstrated tactics that no organic pilot could match, yet they seamlessly coordinated with their human commanders. Your ships are faster than standard designs, Vexthor noted. More maneuverable, too. Video games again, Susan explained with a smile. Gamers always want their ships to be fast and responsive. When we started building real ships, we kept that philosophy. As they moved through the asteroid belt, Catherine revealed more secrets. Hidden research stations where scientists worked on new technologies. Training facilities where future crews practiced in perfect simulations. Weapon testing ranges tucked away in the shadows of larger asteroids. But it was the FTL research facility that truly shocked Vexthor. You've developed your own faster-than-light drive, he asked, studying the experimental ship before them. Improved it. Actually, Catherine corrected. The Zaxteri drive was good, but we thought we could make it better. Our science fiction writers had been theorizing about FTL travel for centuries. Some of their ideas turned out to be useful. The experimental ship demonstrated its capabilities, jumping from one end of the asteroid belt to the other in seconds. Its energy signature was barely detectable. Another improvement over existing designs. Back in the command center, Catherine showed them one final secret. We call this the swarm, she said, bringing up a new display. Millions of tiny dots filled the screen. These are nanite construction units, she explained. They can break down raw materials and build new ships or repair damaged ones. We based them on old science fiction stories about self-replicating machines. Vexthor's notes became increasingly urgent. The humans hadn't just built a fleet. They had created an entire self-sustaining military-industrial complex. Hidden in their asteroid belt, they had the capability to replace any losses, repair any damage, and continuously improve their technology. Why show me all this? He asked finally. Catherine's expression became serious. Because the Council needs to understand something important. What you've seen here isn't just a demonstration of our military power. It's a demonstration of human potential. We built all this in 3 years, mostly using ideas we had developed in theory long before we had the technology. She paused, looking out at the asteroid field. Imagine what we can accomplish in 10 years, or 50, or 100. We're not just catching up to galactic civilization. We're charting our own course. As their tour concluded, Vexthor made his final notes of the day. He wrote, "The human hidden fleet represents more than just military power. It represents a species that has spent generations preparing for this moment. Their ships, their weapons, their tactics, all of it existed in their minds long before they had the means to make it real." Later, alone in his quarters, he added one more line to his report. The most remarkable thing about human military power is not how much they have achieved, but how much more they are capable of achieving. They are not finished growing. They are just getting started. Outside his window, the asteroid belt looked peaceful and ordinary. But now he knew better. Hidden among those rocks was enough firepower to challenge any force in the galaxy. And behind that power was something even more formidable: human imagination and determination. The humans had a saying, "This is just the beginning." Looking at his report, Vexthor realized just how true those words were. Chief Diplomat Andrew Reynolds walked through the gleaming halls of the Galactic Council station, his footsteps echoing softly against the polished floor. Behind him, Dr. Laura Phillips carried a small silver case that contained humanity's latest breakthrough in shield technology. The council chamber was already full when they arrived. Representatives from 30 different species turned to watch them enter, their expressions ranging from curiosity to barely hidden fear. "The council recognizes Earth's delegation," the High Counselor announced, his energy form flickering slightly in its crystal container. You may present your response to our containment proposal." Andrew stepped forward, his calm expression masking his inner thoughts. The Council had spent the last week debating ways to limit human expansion. Now it was time for Earth's answer. "Honorable Council members," he began, his voice clear and steady. "We understand your concerns about the pace of human advancement, but we cannot accept any limitations on our growth." Murmurs filled the chamber. A tall insectoid being clicked its mandibles in agitation. "You cannot simply ignore the Council's authority." "We're not ignoring it," Andrew replied smoothly. "We're respectfully declining it. And we have something to show you that might help explain why." He nodded to Dr. Phillips, who stepped forward and opened her case. Inside was a small device, no larger than her palm. She placed it on the central platform, and with a touch of her hand, it hummed to life. "This is the Neural Net Defense Grid Control Node," she explained, her voice carrying the excitement of a scientist sharing a new discovery. "It's the next step in planetary defense technology." The device projected a holographic display that filled the chamber. It showed Earth, surrounded by layers of interconnected energy fields. But these weren't ordinary shields. They pulsed and moved like living things. "The network learns," Laura continued. "It adapts to any attack pattern it encounters. Each attempt to breach it makes it stronger. We developed it by studying how human neural networks process information." High Commander Vexthor, who had been quietly observing from his seat, leaned forward. "You've created a defensive system that thinks." "In a way," Laura smiled. "We based it on how human brains learn from experience. The more it's used, the better it becomes at protecting us." The Council chamber erupted in shocked discussions. Andrew waited patiently for the noise to die down before speaking again. "This is just one example of why we cannot accept limitations on our development," he said. "Humanity isn't just building technology. We're evolving it, growing it, teaching it." The display changed to show a series of human colonies beyond Council space. Each one was protected by the same neural shield technology. Each one was a testament to humanity's rapid expansion. "We've established 12 colonies in the past year," Andrew continued. "Each one is self-sufficient. Each one is developing its own innovations. We're not just expanding. We're creating new centers of human ingenuity." A blue-skinned counselor stood up. "These colonies are beyond Council jurisdiction. You had no right." "We had every right." Andrew cut in firmly but politely. "Those systems were unclaimed. We surveyed them, we settled them, and we protected them. We followed every principle of galactic law." Laura brought up another display, showing the economic and scientific output of the colonies. The numbers were staggering. In just 1 year, these new settlements had achieved what many civilizations took decades to accomplish. "But more importantly," Andrew added, "these colonies represent something the Council needs to understand. We're not expanding just for the sake of expansion. We're creating backup sites for human civilization." This caused another stir in the chamber. The concept of backup civilizations was not new, but few species had actually achieved it. "Why?" the High Counselor asked simply. "Because humanity has spent centuries imagining what could go wrong," Andrew explained. "In our stories, in our movies, in our games, we've explored countless scenarios where Earth faces destruction. So when we finally reached the stars, our first priority was ensuring humanity's survival." As if to emphasize his point, Laura brought up images of the colonial defense systems. Each colony was as well protected as Earth itself. Each one had its own shipyards, its own research facilities, its own neural net defense grid. "But there's something else you should know," Andrew continued. "While we've been having this debate about containing human expansion, we've been making friends." The display changed again, showing diplomatic agreements with several of the Council's lesser members. Trade deals, technology exchanges, mutual defense pacts. Humanity had been busy. 5 Council species have already signed alliance treaties with Earth, Andrew revealed. They understand what we're offering. A chance to grow alongside us, to share in our innovations, to build something new together. The chamber grew quiet as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't just advancing technologically, they were building a coalition of allies. "We don't want to challenge the Council's authority," Andrew said into the silence. "We want to work with you, but we cannot and will not accept artificial limitations on our growth." Laura stepped forward again, her case now empty but her mind full of other innovations she hadn't shown yet. "We're offering partnership," she added, "a chance to explore new possibilities together." The High Counselor's energy form flickered thoughtfully. "And if we refuse, then we'll continue on our own path," Andrew replied calmly. "But we'd rather walk it together." As the council session ended, Andrew and Laura made their way back to the Earth Embassy. They found Admiral Hughes waiting for them. "How did they take it?" he asked. "About as well as expected," Andrew smiled. "They're scared, fascinated, and excited all at once, just like we were when we first looked at the stars and dreamed of reaching them." Laura opened her tablet, showing the Admiral the real data on the neural net defense grid, the capabilities she hadn't revealed to the Council. "We're still years ahead of where they think we are," she said quietly. "Good," Hughes nodded. "Keep it that way. Let them get used to each advancement before we show them the next one. We've got time." Through the embassy window, Earth shone like a blue jewel in the darkness. Around it, invisible to the naked eye, but very real, the neural net defense grid learned and grew stronger with each passing moment. Humanity's diplomatic dance with the Council would continue, but the steps were already decided. They would advance, they would grow, and they would reach for the stars, with or without the Council's blessing. As Andrew looked out at his home planet, he remembered something he had learned in his diplomatic training. Sometimes the best negotiation strategy was simply to show others that you couldn't be stopped, only guided. The final day of the assessment had arrived. The massive council chamber was packed with representatives from every spacefaring species in known space. High Commander Vexthor stood at the central platform, his final report ready. But before he could begin, Ambassador Amanda Carter asked to make one last presentation. "There's something else you need to see," she said, her voice carrying across the silent chamber. "Something we've been saving for last." Admiral Peter Hughes and Fleet Commander Catherine Brooks stood beside her. Behind them, Dr. Laura Phillips worked quietly on a control panel, preparing for what would come next. "We've shown you our ships," Amanda continued, "our defenses, our colonies, but we haven't shown you why we're so confident about our future in space." The chamber's lights dimmed, and a new holographic display filled the air. It showed what looked like a tear in space itself, a swirling portal of energy that pulsed with strange light. 3 months ago, Catherine explained, we successfully opened our first stable dimensional gateway. The chamber erupted in shock. Even Vexthor's 4 eyes widened in disbelief. Dimensional travel was theoretical, something scientists had speculated about but never achieved. "Impossible," one of the counselors whispered. "The energy requirements alone would be impossible with standard technology," Dr. Phillips agreed. "But we don't use standard technology. We used human imagination combined with alien science." The display showed a small probe entering the portal. Then it showed the same probe emerging in another part of space, far beyond the known galaxy. "We've mapped 16 parallel dimensions so far," Amanda said calmly. "Each one offers new resources, new spaces to explore, new opportunities for growth." The council chamber remained silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just mastered space travel. They had transcended it. High Commander Vexthor stepped forward, his report forgotten. "Why show us this now?" Admiral Hughes answered, his voice firm but friendly. "Because the Council needs to understand something important. You've spent the last month trying to assess our military power, to understand our capabilities. But you've been asking the wrong question." He gestured to the display, where more portals were appearing. "The question isn't how powerful humanity has become. The question is, how can we work together to explore what's out there?" The High Counselor's energy form flickered rapidly, a sign of intense emotion. You could have kept this secret, used it as a threat. We could have, Amanda agreed, but that's not who we are. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We want to explore it, to understand it, to grow with it. Dr. Phillips brought up new data, showing the scientific possibilities of dimensional travel. Think of what we could learn together, she said, her excitement clear in her voice. Every dimension offers new physics to study, new resources to discover. Catherine added her own perspective. Our fleet isn't just a military force. It's an exploration force. We've been preparing our ships for dimensional travel, ready to map new spaces. The chamber filled with excited discussion as the implications became clear. Humanity wasn't just offering to share a new technology. They were offering to share a new frontier. Vexthor looked at his report one last time, then set it aside. Instead, he spoke from his heart. In all my years as war assessor, he began, his voice carrying across the chamber, I have never seen anything like humanity. They don't just adapt technology. They reimagine it. They don't just overcome challenges. They prepare for them centuries in advance. They don't just build weapons. They build possibilities. He turned to face the council. My assessment is simple. Humanity's power is unprecedented because humanity itself is unprecedented. They are not like us, and that is their greatest strength. Amanda stepped forward again. We stand ready to join the council as full members, she said, not as subjects to be contained, but as partners in exploration. We offer our technology, our innovations, and our imagination. The High Counselor's crystal housing hummed with energy. And what do you ask in return? The freedom to grow, Amanda replied simply. The right to explore. And the chance to help build a better galaxy for all species. The council chamber grew quiet as the High Counselor considered. Finally, his energy form stabilized, a sign of decision. The council recognizes Earth and its colonies as a full member species, he announced. Furthermore, we propose the creation of a new division, the Multi-Dimensional Exploration Force, to be led jointly by human and council representatives. The chamber filled with approving sounds from various species. The fear of human power was being replaced by excitement about new possibilities. Later, in a private meeting room, Admiral Hughes sat with Ambassador Carter and Fleet Commander Brooks. They watched Earth rotating slowly beyond the window. They still don't know everything, Catherine said quietly. Amanda nodded. They don't need to. They know enough to work with us, not against us. The rest they'll learn as we go forward together. Admiral Hughes smiled. Did you see their faces when the dimensional portal opened? They looked just like we did when we first dreamed of space travel. That's the key, isn't it? Amanda mused. We spent so long dreaming about this, preparing for it. Now we get to help others dream too. Through the window, they could see ships from various species moving through space. Already, delegations were requesting tours of the dimensional research facilities. Scientists from a dozen worlds were proposing joint projects. Phase 1 is complete, Hughes said, checking his tablet. The Council accepts us as equals. Phase 2 begins, Catherine added, joint exploration of the dimensions. And Phase 3? Amanda asked, though she knew the answer. Hughes looked out at the stars. We helped them achieve their own dreams, just as we achieved ours. In the council chamber, Vexthor was writing the final line of his report. In assessing human space power, we must conclude that it is indeed unprecedented. But more unprecedented is their willingness to share it. They do not seek to conquer the galaxy. They seek to expand it. And in doing so, they may help us all become more than we are. The report ended there, but humanity's story was just beginning. As the dimensional portals opened new frontiers, as joint fleets prepared for exploration, as scientists from all species worked together on new discoveries, one thing became clear. The humans had been right all along. Their greatest power wasn't in their weapons or their ships or their technology. Their greatest power was in their dreams and their ability to make those dreams real. And now, they would help the galaxy dream bigger than ever before.